Hey, how's it going? Just recovering from my Twitch drops hangover. Trying to. You guys know what I mean, right? You spend 6 hours watching Tarkov Rivals and getting all those drops that you had to sit there and click a button for now because you can't just passively farm at AFK anymore. You have to be an active participant and click the button in order to be able to get your free stuff. Because it's Tarkov, you know I'm going to be there. And then you end up watching multiple streams at the same time, only then to realize that the drops queue that you thought that you had and the claim button that you thought that you were going to use in order to be able to farm those drops for common items ends up being filled out and you can't get any more. If only then to end up watching the winning team win and then have them not give you the legendary drop that you were apparently guaranteed. But, you know, not bitter. Not bitter at all. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I wanted to talk about the Rivals event because there were some interesting things that came out of the Rivals event. Some stuff that made you scratch your head and some stuff that I think BSG probably is going to look at improving on. Even though this one, I will say, got run significantly better than the first one. I was not a participant in this one. I was lucky enough to be a participant in the first one. In regard to this one, the Rivals event was definitely better. Still has some growing pains, though. Oh, and amazingly enough, you guys are still here. For those of you that stuck around, I appreciate you. But here's the thing. There were a few like weird things with this. For those of you that are unfamiliar with Rivals, the way that Rivals works, at least for Tarkov and what they've kind of decided on, is this bingo board format. For both the EU and the NA brackets, they both got identical bingo cards, meaning that the EU competitors all had an identical bingo card, and then the NA competitors all had an identical bingo card, but the two were not exactly the same. That way, the NA squad couldn't like prepare for what it was that they were going to have to do. Although, apparently this time around, they were shown the bingo card a day in advance so that they could plan and prepare, which is something that we, in the original Rivals, did not have. Now, the point system in this case was also a little bit different. In the original Rivals, they had kind of like two winners. People that got first bingo got like bonus cash and you know, they got like their own little thing. And then the people with the most bingos also had like their own bracket that had like a little bit bigger of a prize pool, I think. Instead of doing the two separate winners in each bracket thing, what they decided to do instead was a point system. And the way it worked was each square that you unlocked was worth a point or two. Every bingo that you got was worth a handful of points. And then the people that got the first bingo got some bonus points. What that ended up ultimately working out to was if two teams were tied and one of them had gotten the first bingo, that means that the bonus points they received would have given them first place, which I'll talk more about here in a second. The first thing that ended up being a little bit of a head-scratcher regarding this actually had to do with a game mechanic that looks like it was accidentally buffed a little too much. And for those of you that watched it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And for those of you that didn't, well, here's a clip and we'll see if you can tell. Everything's perfectly normal, right? No, of course not. The reload speed is ridiculously high. So all of the competitors were given level 40 characters with level 15 skills, and all of the traders unlocked with the exception of Jaeger because Jaeger is behind a quest wall. So they were pretty beefy. In this case, though, it looks like the mag drill skill was inadvertently buffed beyond that. And I went to Twitter and kind of asked this question, like, is this what mag drills are supposed to look like? Because I remember it being like, what, 150 MS or something. I think Veritas made a video on that showed it really didn't get accelerated by all that much. In this case, it looks like they may have accidentally 10x'd the variable that goes into those incremental increases of mag drills for all of the competition accounts. Whatever. It made for some really hilarious gameplay footage, especially if you looked at what happened on the AGS.
You pump the AGS so fucking fast.
But something that we did not realize was that mag drill speed actually affects how quickly you rack the AGS. Who knew? So the inhuman reload speeds probably won't ever get seen again, but it was still really funny to witness. Now, the next couple of things that I want to talk about actually have to do with the bingo card itself and things that I think BSG could probably stand to improve on just a little bit. Again, I want to say that I think that this Rivals event was awesome. It was great to watch. The competition was nuts. And the ideas that BSG are bringing to the table about even having this bingo format to begin with was something that I went like, oh, that's cool. So I dig this. And I don't want to take away from anything that BSG has done. But there's always room to grow, right? When it comes to the bingo card itself, there were a couple of things that I noticed. One was the RNG aspect of the bingo card, meaning the squares that are on there, stuff like having to find a scav mustache or get a golden TT from Rashala or get an Ash 12. Those things come from an RNG mechanic. They have to spawn, and then you have to find them, and then you have to capitalize on what it was that you found. So in the case of something like finding a golden TT, Rashala has to spawn on customs. You either have to kill or come across his body and get incredibly lucky that somebody else didn't loot him already. And he has to have the golden TT on him, which he doesn't always have. It's not a 100% chance that Rashala has the golden TT on his body. It's high, but it's not guaranteed. And when you have a lack of guarantees in a competition like this, when you're trying to get bingo squares, you could end up on a losing streak in this where maybe you don't see a scav boss for like 10, 12, 15 raids in a row. I mean, we've all experienced stuff like that. There was a team yesterday that was unable to get 6 bingos and had to settle for 4 because they couldn't find a mustache scav anywhere to loot the mustache from. So in my mind, looking at something like this and how this was run, I think that it would be more beneficial for a competition perspective to have this more based around skill. Sure, have stuff that makes you have to like make big brain plays, right? Like get a melee kill while dehydrated or get a melee kill while blind or something like that. Sure. I'm all in for that kind of stuff because that's an environment that you can pseudo control. You don't really have a whole lot of control over whether or not Rashala shows up on a map or whether or not Sanitar does. This late in a wipe cycle, if you're saying, well, you have to kill 5 level 30 plus PMCs and get their dog tags, well, that's not that hard to do. Most everybody, I think, at this point is above level 30 unless they reset their account recently. The second thing that I had that I wanted to kind of look at was the stat tracking. So the way that this works and the way that it's worked since the beginning is that BSG ties themselves into something having to do with Rivals and the Twitch API, and they have a way to report on these stats that are being tracked as to whether or not somebody hits the mark on those, right? So if you loot Gluhar's body and get an Ash 12 found in raid, there's a tick somewhere that happens on BSG's side that says so-and-so looted the Ash 12, and then that automatically is fed back to Rivals. So that way, this automated system takes all of these extra variables out of people's hands, and nobody's having to go back and like review Twitch clips, right? Makes for a nice streamlined system when it works. The issue in this case has to come down to what was going on in the NA bracket specifically, although the EU bracket did see some of this as well, especially Ghost Freak, who was kind of chasing his shadow in this case. Now, one of the bingo squares in both sets of brackets said that you had to get 50 scav kills. That was the idea. Okay, no problem. The rules also said boss scavs and their guards and raiders do not count. Okay, fine. The issue with this came down to the stat tracking screen and the character pane of each player's character. So when you look at the character pane, you can scroll down and you can see that there's a couple of subheadings related to scavs. One says bosses and the other one says scavs. There isn't any differentiation between whether it's scav boss guards or whether they are raiders, because raider scavs are still considered scavs. Boss guard scavs are still considered scavs. So naturally, in the tracking of things, it's going to fall under this scav category, right? Well, because raiders and boss guards didn't count in this case as scav kills, it caused an awful lot of confusion.
I don't know.
Warren, keep being Warren just for a little bit longer.
It didn't update on the sheet, but
I think I need more kills. I'm going for it, I guess. I don't know.
They took our win back? Warren, just keep going.
Are you
took
fucking
it back.
serious?
What?
Apparently they took our win back.
For what?
I don't know. That's what chat's saying. Just keep killing. Just keep killing.
I need fucking.
What? Yo, if they do this to us again, I'm gonna.
If we're second place, Andy, is because of shit like this again. I'll be pissed.
So in this clip here, you can clearly see War Run and the gang are very, very visibly confused, audibly confused, even to the point where the people that were broadcasting Rivals thought that the NA team that was Landmark Willers and War Run won the whole thing because they blacked out their bingo board, even though I digress. We'll get to that last point in a second. In the case of the competitors and the stat tracking specifically looking at this line item, there wasn't any way for them to know whether or not they had gotten it. And since they were all playing on a 1-minute delay, they were more or less looking back in time at their own chat to try and see whether or not their spam was showing that they got a drop for the goal, because every time they got a square, every time that they got a bingo, they would get an extra drop. So naturally, you get a bingo, or you think you did, you start looking at chat, you wait a minute, and then they tell you whether or not you got it. So that obviously creates more confusion, because then chat gets caught up in the hype, and then they start going like, oh, you got it, oh, you got it, oh, you got it, but you didn't really. And without being able to track that on your end as a competitor, causing all of that confusion, what it really comes down to is it burns time. See, because now your focus and concentration are broken. You're nervous and anxious to begin with, and now you have to add confusion into that mix, and that just doesn't really make for a good mental state for competition. Now, the ultimate winners in the NA bracket was Pestily's team. Pestily, Slush Puppy, and Red Ops. And congrats to them. They played their asses off. It was right down to the wire, and they killed it. Pestily's squad ended up finishing with a blacked out board, meaning they completed every single square on their bingo board. In second place was Willers, War Run, and Landmark, who played their asses off as well. And again, like I had just mentioned, the confusion of the way that the stats are being tracked kind of messed up their mojo a little bit. But here's the thing. The way that the game was scored, even playing as well as they had, even if they had gotten all 50 scavs, they were still playing for second place. And the reason why is because of this.
Golden TT quad.
Good luck.
Yes.
Oh, really? We got a bingo then.
Yep.
Is that it? We got a bingo?
Yep.
The Bastilian army.
Let's
is
fucking go,
standing
baby!
strong.
Let's fucking go!
Now, remember I said a minute ago that they were given advance notice. They were able to look at what the bingo boards were ahead of time. So they were able to see this diagonal from the top right to the lower left, and that was the one that most all of the teams ended up going for off the onset, because they figured that would be the easiest one to get. And again, this is where RNG comes into play. And luckily for Pestily's squad, when they went into their very first customs raid, it just so happened that Rashala was there. They were able to kill him, and they were able to get the golden TT off of him. The rest of it was all skill-based. They could just get it done. That's a really, really early first bingo. Fast forward to the end of the match, and now we have two squads that are just about equal in terms of their point scores. In finishing up their bingo board, they couldn't lose. Now, I'm, again, all for competition and the idea of bonus points and that kind of stuff and completing things. But if you're going to give bonus points away to competitors, in my mind, at the very least, it should be something that is earnable by everyone, you know? Just because you get to finish something first, especially if there's an RNG mechanic related to it, doesn't necessarily mean that that is fair across the board for everyone. And when it comes to competitions like this, you want everyone to have an even playing field. Not to say that the playing field itself wasn't even, but with the RNG aspect built in and the inability for anyone else to be able to, I guess, win if somebody finishes a blackout just because they got that first bingo, you know what I mean? Anyway, fellas, regardless, I want to make sure that I'm, again, very clear in saying that the competition was awesome. I don't want to take anything away from Pestily and the boys. They played an amazing game. Pest, Slush, and Red Ops are complete masters of this game, as are Landmark, Willers, and War Run. They're insane. Those teams were stacked as hell. I would just like to see it be less reliant on RNG and more reliant on, you know, just achieving stuff through their own volition. You know? All right, guys. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.